Hello, my name is Kedar and you're watching rptv. Welcome to the launch of Rhythms of Change, Reflections on the Regent Park's Revitalization, a groundbreaking book by Mitchell Cohen, held at the UN World Pavilion in Regent Park. This event was a special moment as Mitchell Cohen, CEO of the Daniels Corporation, shared his insights from the remarkable 18-year transformation of Toronto's Regent Park, one of the world's most innovative urban revitalization projects. Daniels Corporation, as the developers of the first 3 phases of Regent Park's revitalization, played a key role in reshaping the community. The book delves into the innovative revitalization strategies that transformed Regent Park into a thriving, inclusive community, highlighting the powerful connections and partnerships that were built during that time. Attendees and the Regent Parkers had the chance to receive free signed copies of the book, enjoy delicious food, and network with leaders and community members dedicated to creating vibrant urban spaces. Now let's dive into the full video celebrating this inspiring story.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the World Urban Pavilion powered by Daniels in Regent Park. We're thrilled that you, esteemed guests, book lovers, community champions, and fellow urban development enthusiasts have joined us here in person in Toronto and online around the world. My name is Hila Omarkale. I'm Vice President of Social Impact at the Daniels Corporation. I am honored to be your host this morning as we celebrate the momentous release of Rhythms of Change, Reflections on the Regent Park Revitalization by Mitchell Cohen, President and CEO of the Daniels Corporation, in his brilliant debut as an author. We have an exciting program ahead, starting with a land acknowledgement and an Indigenous blessing. Rhythms of Change explores the remarkable renewal of the Regent Park neighborhood, starting with its design as a garden city in the 1940s. It is important to acknowledge, however, that Regent Park's rich history dates back much further as the traditional territory of Indigenous peoples who were the original caregivers of this land. As a neighborhood in downtown Toronto, Regent Park is on the treaty lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit and the shared territory of the Neutrals, the Anishinaabeg, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. As we are gathered in person and online, I encourage each of you to acknowledge the land on which you work, live, and learn, and really acknowledge its rich history and traditional inhabitants. Now, guided by Mitchell's leadership at Daniels, our work towards truth and reconciliation continues. We are committed to educating ourselves and understanding the truth about our shared history with First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples as we strive toward building inclusive communities and a more sustainable future together. Through this work, we have been fortunate to meet Dr. Duke Redbird, an elder from the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation on the shores of Lake Huron, a celebrated Indigenous visionary, as well as an established public intellectual, poet, broadcaster, and filmmaker. Dr. Redbird is an elder and advisor to various public and private organizations. His outstanding contribution to culture, literature, and human rights stretches far beyond his work in Canada. Both Mitchell and I are humbled to call Dr. Redbird, or Elder Duke to us, a dear friend. As today marks a new beginning with the launch of Rhythms of Change, I'd like to invite Elder Duke to the stage to share a traditional blessing. Please join me in welcoming Elder Duke. I'd like to offer you some tea.
Language. Okay. Well, thank you for that kind introduction, and good morning, everyone. As we say in Ojibwe, Ani, Bojo, Sego, Tansei, and in English, greetings. So, good morning and welcome. I'm delighted and really honored to open Mitchell Cohen's Rhythms of Change book launch in a good way, as we say. I'm delighted to share and inform you that this morning, November the 12th, is a waxing moon that will be in full bloom in 4 days. Now, amongst the Anishinaabe people, the treaty holders of the territory now known as Regent Park, we call this time of year the freezing over moon. One of our 13 moons, which began with the arrival of the new moon on the 1st of November. Freezing over moon is the time that we come to know the power of spirit. During this moon, the Anishinaabe people share our sacred teachings and songs with one another. This is a time for rest and being with family. We begin the winter moons by looking inward and giving appreciation for everything we have received during the previous seasons. The launch of Mitchell Cohen's Rhythms of Change couldn't be more timely inasmuch as it coincides with the waxing of the full moon of November. So we look forward to storytelling and songs. We give thanks to the Creator for our blessings in the form of a traditional prayer. O my mother, the earth, O my father, the sky, your children are we, and we are honored to bring to you the gifts that you love. Cedars, sweet grass, sage, and in our community, tobacco. Then weave for us a garment of brightness. May the weft be the white light of morning. May the warp be the red light of evening. May the border be the standing rainbow. And may the fringe be the falling rain. Then weave for us a garment of brightness, so that we may fittingly walk where birds sing, that we may fittingly walk where grass is green. O my mother, the earth, O my father, the sky. Thank you, and as we say in Ojibwe, miigwech.
Miigwech, Elder Duke, for sharing your wisdom through the beautiful blessing. And Miigwech, thank you for your friendship. Rhythms of Change is Mitchell's first-hand account of Regent Park's extraordinary metamorphosis into a healthy, resilient, and inclusive community, a model being recognized internationally as the gold standard for urban transformation. For this reason, UN Habitat and the Urban Economy Forum selected Regent Park as a home for the World Urban Pavilion. They also recently nominated Rhythms of Change for inclusion in UN Habitat's Urban Library, and I'm pleased to share that the nomination was successful. Mitchell and the book were featured virtually at the World Urban Forum in Cairo, Egypt, just last week. I'd like to recognize Reza Waziri, chair of the Urban Economy Forum, and Eduardo Lopez Moreno, co-director of the World Urban Pavilion, for their efforts in this regard. Reza, our thanks to you and your team as well for welcoming us to your amazing space this morning. Thank you. And now, I have the distinct pleasure of formally introducing Mitchell as he adds author to his very long list of accomplishments. Today, we not only celebrate the release of Mitchell's book, but also the culmination of his hard work, his boundless creativity, and his heartfelt passion. Please join me in warmly welcoming Mitchell to the stage.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you, Gila. That is such a beautiful introduction. Really appreciate your leadership on everything you do with all of our social impact initiatives, both here in Regent Park over such a long time, but also across our entire portfolio. Elder Duke, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate that beautiful blessing that you brought to all of us. Thank you for being here. I also want to extend a very special thanks and appreciation to our entire team at the Daniels Corporation. Your dedication to excellence, your commitment, your enthusiasm, and your passion inspires me every single day. A warm welcome as well to our partners at Toronto Community Housing, Jessica Hawes, Peter Zimmerman, and I know that CEO Sean Baird would have loved to be here this morning, but he has a board meeting, so he wasn't able to join us. A very special welcome this morning to Derek Ballantyne and John Fox. I know that Mark Guslitz wanted to be here, but he wasn't able to join us. But the three gentlemen, John, Mark, and Derek, welcomed us into this community way back in 2006, welcomed us into a partnership with Toronto Community Housing in 2006, paving the way, in fact, for all of us to be here this morning. A very special welcome as well to Greg Spearn, who led the housing company with tremendous skill over many years. Greg, thank you for being here. Don Schmidt, Ken Greenberg, John Gladkey is here. These are people that were involved in the planning, in the early stages of thinking through what this revitalization might be. So great to see all of you here as part of this. And of course, to all of our friends here in this neighborhood, here in Regent Park, thank you for joining us this morning, but thank you for welcoming us into your homes, into your hearts, and into this neighborhood. Thank you for that very warm welcome. For most of us that are here in this room today, and those of us tuning in from around the world, the concept of urban renewal is certainly nothing new. In fact, over the years, I know we've all seen or read reports of urban renewal projects that have reflected very much a top-down and heavy-handed approach, a process directed by planners and politicians. Common practice, in fact, has seen entire neighborhoods bulldozed, demolished, with local residents already marginalized, pushed even further to the margins. Well, the Regent Park revitalization turned that practice entirely on its head, putting local voices and local aspirations at the absolute top of the agenda. Rhythms of Change chronicles how that happened from my perspective, providing, in fact, a process map that is being emulated today in cities around the world. Rhythms of Change tells a business story, it tells a political story, but most importantly, it tells a community story. How local residents came together in the mid-1990s to envision a better future, a better quality of life for themselves, their families, and their neighborhood. That neighborhood, Regent Park, built in the 1940s and 1950s, had been conceived with the best of intentions under a Garden City planning model. At the time, Garden City planning was considered a best-in-class approach to slum clearance. The premise was very simple. If you take out the public streets, cars are removed from the equation, and kids will be able to play safely within the gardens. That was the theory. The theory was one thing. However, the reality was devastatingly different. Without eyes on the street, and without the investment required to maintain a state of good repair, the Garden City became an island unto itself, isolated and, yes, deeply stigmatized. Although only a short walk from downtown Toronto, Regent Park was light years away in all other respects. The arc of the story, however, began to change when a group of tenacious tenants, fed up with the isolation, fed up with the stigma, fed up with the ever-deteriorating living conditions, developed a set of principles that became the foundation upon which the revitalization was built. The most important principle was a right of return, an agreement stipulating that residents would move out to make way for demolition, but with a guaranteed right of return to a new home within their community. The second principle was simply to put the streets back into the grid of the City of Toronto, reconnecting Regent Park to the city and the entire world beyond. Developing a complete community with a mix of incomes, tenures, and uses was also fundamental to the vision, providing fertile ground upon which the seeds of change could grow. Today, those seeds of change have taken root. With 53 of 69 acres nearing completion, Regent Park is a real-time demonstration of how a challenged inner-city neighborhood can be reimagined and transformed. Regent Park today is also a place where diversity is celebrated and where quality of life rivals that of any neighborhood in the world. Rhythms of Change also describes how our company came to be involved in this process. I've had the privilege of leading the Daniels Corporation for 40 years now, joining John Daniels when I was 3. Joining John Daniels' startup company in 1984, a company that has now developed and built just under 40,000 homes. The premise underlying everything that we've done is very, very simple, that our business can be a platform for progressive social change, delivering positive outcomes to all stakeholders, not just the developer. What a concept. Now, to a great extent, my background, developing nonprofit housing co-ops in Montreal in the 1970s and here in Toronto in the early 80s, shaped our trajectory as a company. In the course of that work, I met many people and many families living on a precipitous ledge, trying to keep their feet on solid ground, but ever fearful that one day the ground will shift without a safety net to cushion the fall. In 2005, when the City of Toronto was kickstarting the revitalization here in Regent Park, residents of this community were certainly feeling the ground beginning to shift. Recognizing the anxiety over an uncertain future, my partner Martin Blake and I spent several months right here on the ground in this community, listening, learning, and coming to understand the hopes and the dreams and aspirations of local residents. Our conclusions were very simple. Firstly, honoring and respecting local voices would be the most important building block for success. And secondly, that a partnership-based model was the only way to bring those hopes and dreams to life, the only way that something so complex and so textured could be achieved. Rhythms of Change describes how that public-private partnership came to life. And it also describes the robust collaboration and partnership with local residents that has been fundamental to everything that has been accomplished thus far. Getting from there to here, however, has been far from a walk in the park. Endless challenges along the way, including something you'll probably all remember, nothing short of a global economic meltdown in the fall of 2008. And in early 2011, we ran headfirst into a political firestorm when a newly elected mayor, do I remember his name? When a newly elected mayor fired the housing company's CEO and the entire board of directors, leaving no one, absolutely no one, at the partnership table for months. Sadly, there were also many moments when the community was torn apart by the loss of yet another young man to a cycle of violence fueled by guns and gangs and drugs. And despite everything we were doing, the Toronto Community Housing was doing, that residents of the community were doing in order to support young people in the neighborhood, young people in this neighborhood were still at risk, and perhaps even more so because of the disruption and the displacement that the revitalization was causing. Through all of the challenges, through all of the roadblocks and obstacles, many lessons have been learned. My goal in writing this book is to share as many of those lessons as possible. It was also to celebrate and to honor the early visionaries, many of whom are in this room today. People who had lived in Regent Park for decades, as well as new residents, many of whom are also in this room today, who took a risk that the vision of an inclusive community could come to life, could become a reality. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, I hope that people reading this book will recognize their unique potential to make a difference, to become an agent of change, and then, like residents of Regent Park, harness that potential to build healthy and sustainable neighborhoods in which everyone is welcome and everyone belongs. Thank you. Thank you. Now, just before I read a short excerpt from the book, I want to send out a special word of thanks to Trina White, Jesse Finkelstein, and the team at Page 2 Publishing, especially Peter Cocking and Jennifer Lum, who turned our dream of what this book could look and feel like into a beautiful, brilliant reality. To my editor, James Harbeck, thank you for being here. James helped create a structure that truly embodies the rhythms of change. And James also helped me keep the narrative moving to the beat. Thank you for that, James. A special shout out to Simona and Nibale. Simona, where are you? To Simona. Working with you to bring this vision to life, to bring this book to life, has been an absolute pleasure. You made it happen, Simona, wherever you are in this room. Thank you, Simona. And finally, to my wife, Janice, for your support and your love, for being a constant and reliable sounding board, not only as this book was being envisioned, but throughout the entire journey of our lives. Thank you. Yes, I'm crying a bit. And now a reading. This is actually the very first verse of the book. We called them verses instead of chapters. Why not? This is verse 1, an unforgettable moment. It was a cold but clear winter morning in early 2006, the day the demolitions started. David Miller, mayor of Toronto, sat in the cab of a big machine near the corner of Dundas and Parliament, pulling the levers that would tear a family's home apart. As I watched the big rigs do their damage, one longtime resident, a grandmother, with tears in her eyes, told me that her family and their history were being erased. Her words hit me like a wrecking ball. I felt the weight of responsibility to do right by people in this neighborhood who had lived in substandard conditions for decades, isolated from the outside world. Toronto Community Housing had promised residents a right of return. But at that moment, it was just that. It was a promise, a hope that the authorities would be true to their word and that residents would be able to come home to a new Regent Park. Standing next to me were the true visionaries of the revitalization: Diane McLean, Deborah Deneen, Deanie Peters, Neil Clark, Inez Garcia, Lloyd Pike, Soraya Ibrahim, and several hundred other residents watching as their homes, memories, and lives were torn apart. In the middle of the tableau stood local councillor Pam McConnell, a lifelong crusader for social justice and a steadfast champion of the revitalization. Pam's presence was powerful, reassuring her constituents that the promised right of return was real. From that moment, our team was part of a large ensemble, playing a pivotal role, but always listening closely to the tones and the melodies of the other players. There were moments when we had no idea where the music would take us. There were others when the notes resonated in perfect harmony, reflecting hope, potential, and personal growth. Darker tones often took center stage, reflecting anger, resentment, and a deep, deep sadness for what had been lost. We planted our feet in the center of this process as the community was torn apart, and then we were active participants in weaving it back together. The entire city saw remnants of lives on display as our demolition contractor exposed wires, steel, and the pastel colors of individual dreams, hopes, love, and family. And then, ever so slowly, the city and the world beyond witnessed something very special beginning to emerge. One brick at a time, building by building, block by block, beautiful and messy, important, imperfect, and the subject of great debate. Is revitalization a genuine attempt at redevelopment that respects the people and history of a community, or is it simply gentrification in disguise? Although I am telling this story from my experience and perspective, it is above all a story of remarkable people who recognized the need for change and then, through their will and determination, shaped what that change could be. This is their story. This is their story. A story of resilience in the face of upheaval and change. But it is also our story, the story of our company, diving into the unknown, connecting and collaborating with local residents and our public sector partner, hand in hand with an ensemble of players from beyond the community, each bringing the best of their love to the composition. Thank you.
I'm ready for verse 2, Mitchell. Thank you. Mitchell, it's been a privilege working with you, or better yet, jamming with you over the past 15 years here in Regent Park. I've learned firsthand, as you lead by example, the importance of truly listening to community voices, the importance of investing in relationships, of building trust, of leveraging business for social impact, and perhaps, my favorite of all, the need to forget thinking outside the box and to remember that there is no box, especially with a little bit of whiteout in hand. Now, I promise that whiteout reference and all the other learnings will become evident as each of you read Rhythms of Change. I know Dr. Mark Joseph has his very own learnings from Mitchell over the last decade of visiting Regent Park and studying the revitalization. Mark is the founding director of the National Initiative on Mixed Income Communities and the Leona Beavis Marguerite Hanem Professor in Community Development at Case Western Reserve University in Ohio. His research focus is mixed income development as a strategy for urban equity and inclusion. Mark wrote the prologue to Rhythms of Change and will lead a very special conversation with Mitchell. Please join me in welcoming Mark to the stage.
Wow, wow, wow. What a beautiful day.
It is.
Always, always, always great to be back in Regent Park, and always great to be with you, Mitchell. And let me start by once again offering my congratulations on what you, your team, your partners, and so many community members have accomplished here at Regent Park. Let's have one more. In my view, as you know, as Gila knows, what we have here represents the pinnacle of mixed income transformation in North America. Truly, truly, truly the gold standard. And your book is now a treasure chest of what you've done here and how you did it. So I'd like to start by talking about a paradigm shift that you talk about in the book. And if you all take nothing else away, if our audience takes nothing else away, please hang in there for the answer to this question, because I think this is at the core of the metamorphosis. I love that use of that word, Gila. You realized very early on that this transformation was more, much more, than just about building buildings, which is hard enough, and providing programs and services. The way you talk about it in the book is that the transformation needed to be about empowerment, personal growth, and capacity building of the people who lived here. So can you talk more about that paradigm shift and why, and then how?
Well, the why for us, as I said earlier a few minutes ago, was very clear when we came into this neighborhood and realized there was a group of people that cared so deeply about their community. Despite the challenges, despite the isolation, there were people living here who had each other's back always, that felt a sense and spirit of community. And they had done the hard work to determine that if there ever was going to be an opportunity to change what Regent Park would be, that here are the principles. And I mentioned some of those principles. So when we got involved, when Martin and I came and walked the neighborhood and listened, we realized, as I said, that was the fundamental building block. We could not look at this as a developer that's buying density, that building buildings alone would not in any way address what needed to be addressed through this process. So when we got involved, we looked at the fact that there were two documents that were important. One was a zoning bylaw, and everyone knows a zoning bylaw. And typically a zoning bylaw is looked at as, okay, that's sacrosanct, that's the bylaw, that's what you have to work with. There's a certain height and density and the way the buildings are going to shape. And then developers work within that, or they try to change it a bit. But then here, what was incredibly important and different was that there was a social development plan, the SDP, fundamental building block. Now, the zoning bylaw had kind of institutional authority. The social development plan had no authority. It was a visionary document. It was aspirational. We looked at those two, and we said, you know, in this social development plan, there are these unbelievable desires, important opportunities. For example, create an arts and culture center. So we looked at that and we said, how do we create an arts and culture center? Not just look at the density and say, okay, let's go build this density and that'll be it. How do we create a place where people can come together and share their histories, their art, the cultures that they bring from back home? And so we looked at the social development plan as at the top of the pyramid. That, I think, is the paradigm shift. The social development plan took primacy. It was the top. And density, and we learned this from Ken Greenberg and from Don Schmidt and John Gladkey through the process. The zoning bylaw was a guide. And I think that was really important to recognize that it was a guide. It wasn't the be-all and end-all. And what we needed to do with my whiteout, which was the reference, is erase certain things in there, talk to our partner, Derek Ballantyne, at TCH and say, you know, we have some ideas on how we can change what that plan is. And Derek and John and Mark and others at the corporation said, absolutely, let's do this. So that's how Daniel Spectrum was created. By thinking well out of the box. There was no box. By thinking that we could do something very important and special by listening and by having that social development plan at the top of the agenda. That's the shift. What comes first? The people or the bricks and mortar? Bottom line, got to be the people.
Can you talk a little bit about the durability that needs to be built into this so that it lasts? We're sitting here a couple decades into this, but for the transformation that you envision, there are decades still to come. And how does putting the SDP at the center, putting people at the center, how does that help ensure that all that we've done continues into the decades to come?
Well, Mark, I think it's about capacity building. It's about empowerment. It's about having people living in this community recognize their voice, begin to use that voice, continue to use the voice that came up from the ground in the mid-90s, and find new people who are moving into the community that say, I want to be part of this. I want to be part of the further evolution. Nothing stays the same. New people will come in. New melodies will be written. But as long as people look at the essence of it as we have a stake, we have a voice. It's not simply a corporation that is doing something to us, but in fact, we are here to express our vision, our voice, and to continually be a factor and to be part of the conversation going forward. There's no guarantee ever of sustainability. What we can do is everything possible to support people's growth, empowerment, and therefore their ability to have that voice, have that say.
So vital. As you said, new people will come in, new mayors will come in, new authorities will come in, right? New folks with decision-making power.
Yes.
And then sometimes, as you said, there will be no one. There will be voids, moment with no one. If that capacity and empowerment is not planted in this community, who holds all of our feet to the fire to say, we're not done. There's more work to be done. There really is no mixed income transformation, and I said North America before, I'm going to say for this one, in the world, that has had the level of aspiration, of dreams, of what could be than this one. And what's been incredible, and again, you document in the book, are the number of these aspirations that most of us would have said, that'll never happen. You're not going to pull that off. And there's been miracle after how did you pull that one out? I'd love for you to pick one of the miracles you pulled off that maybe still has you shaking your head a little bit. How did we do that?
Well, I mentioned Daniel Spectrum, and there's a number of people in this room that were so much a part of creating Daniel Spectrum. Celia, Dawn. But I'll move from that to the Regent Park Athletic Grounds, because that is an accomplishment that we are so proud of and happy that it was able to be manifested. We looked at the social development plan, we looked at the bylaw, we heard from the neighborhood that there needed to be a place in the community for young people to have active athletics, active sports, a soccer pitch, a cricket pitch, a place to run, a place to play basketball. That was important in the social development plan. It became even more important when we sat around round tables with people in this neighborhood to talk about what should happen in the big park in Regent Park. Because that planning exercise was phenomenal. Everyone was engaged in thinking about the big park. And the park is built, and it did not have enough space for a soccer pitch. But the importance of that kind of active athletics was so clear in those meetings that out came my bottle of whiteout. You said you're going to read about it in the book. I guess I'll tell a little. Out came my bottle of whiteout and looked at phase 3, took away a whole bunch of buildings, and drew in my own rough little way, which Dawn then helped and turned into a real plan, the Regent Park Athletic Grounds. Now, that was aspirational. There was no money to create athletic grounds. Greg Spearin, at the time at CEO, said, okay, if you can find the money, if we collectively can find the money, we'll do this. We'll create the Regent Park Athletic Grounds. So then came the need to find the money. Now, that is where kind of relentlessness pays off. Never say that it's over until, well, it's never over. Keep on going. So we knocked on a door that we thought would be the right door to knock on. You know, there was a couple choices in trying to create something like this, of this magnitude. You know, one is a capital campaign and try to get a whole bunch of people together to put money in. And that's what happened with Daniel Spectrum. And Robert Foster was very much part of that, thank you, Robert, and others, to find the money through a campaign cabinet to build Daniel Spectrum.
Can you just, for the audience who may not know, Daniel Spectrum, one sentence,
Sorry.
What is it? Because it is the most incredible thing. Just make sure our audience knows what
Thank you. Daniel Spectrum is a 60,000 square foot cultural hub in the heart of the neighborhood that did not exist in the zoning bylaw. But it came to life through the work of people in this neighborhood saying, we need to have that place, that stage where we all come together, where it doesn't matter where I'm an owner, you're a tenant, I'm an owner. We're sharing our love of books, of learning, of theater, of art, of spoken word. So that's what it is. Maybe that was 2 sentences. Sorry. So athletic grounds, active athletics became a really important rallying cry. And we didn't want to do that capital campaign because we'd just come off of it with Daniel Spectrum. So we knocked on a singular door, MLSE, Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. And I met with the person who chaired the foundation and said, we have this idea, we need your help, wouldn't this be cool? And they kind of rolled their eyes and said, we don't do that. You know, we provide $25,000 to community groups to do an upgrade of a basketball court that is in a bad state of repair. And so I kept my eyes on the ball, and that particular chair of the foundation retired. A second one came, and I made the pitch a second time. And this particular person said, well, again, you know, our policy doesn't allow us to do that. You know, we want to spread ourselves over a whole bunch of different places. So thank you, but it's a great idea, but not for us. Okay. Then the skies opened like they've opened today. And a new person came to MLSE named Michael Bartlett. Michael sends his regrets. He really wanted to be here today. Michael Bartlett joined the foundation, and I knocked on his door, knock, knock, knock. And I told him this idea, and Michael said, oh my God, this is what we need to do. This is what the foundation needs to do. Make a long-term investment in a community. These $25,000 things, they go in, they go out, they're meaningless, they don't make an impact. We don't create relationships with people in a community. This is an opportunity to do that. And MLSE themselves and with some of their people in their world, in their network, raised $3.5 million, I think it was, to create the Regent Park Athletic Grounds. And again, Greg and the team from TCH said, hallelujah, let's move that density around and create this opportunity to create something that will create value for everyone in this neighborhood and everyone across the city. And that's what happened. One of my very favorite things to do in this neighborhood, and Hannah knows this, Hannah lives around the corner, our daughter, is take a walk with Hannah's dog. And we walk through the athletic grounds, and the lights are on, and there's people playing, and there's people running around the park, and there's people playing basketball, and there's 3 soccer games going on at one time. And it is truly this amazing embodiment of what can be achieved when people come together in common cause. And MLSE came to that party.
Love that, love that. You use the word perseverance, and I really hope that those next generation change agents listening today are taking that lesson away. That even a developer with the context and the influence and yes, the charm of a Mitchell Cohen gets told no, and gets told no, and gets told no. But you had to be vigilant for that moment of opportunity. Because if you shrugged and said, oh well, I've been told no twice, let me move on, let's do something smaller. But it was that moment of that new person and trying once again, which is really the lesson to take away. We gotta slide this in. You mentioned the park that didn't have room for athletics ground, as if, oh, that would have just happened. I see my good friend Sean Braithwaite in the audience and friends of Regent Park. Just tell a quick bit of the story. The park, as I have this correct, was not meant to be when it was. In the plans, here comes your bottle of white out again, it was later.
Yes.
But you realized, wait a second, what we're trying to do here needs a park. It's Regent Park after all.
Yeah.
Earlier, could you just say a word about that? We didn't plan to talk about that, but.
No problem. So when we got involved, we looked again at the zoning bylaw, and there was also a phasing plan that was going to govern how the phases were going to roll out. And we took a look at that, Martin and myself and other members of our team, and we said, this phasing plan makes no sense whatsoever, with all respect to the planners who put it together. It didn't make sense because it wasn't a natural evolution. There was phase 1 over here on the west side, phase 2 over here on the east side, and there were reasons. And it had to do with the district energy plant, it had to do with the rollout and the investment. They had to do with financial reasons more than social development reasons. And I think that's the difference. We looked at it and we said, we have to find a way to change the phasing plan because the park cannot be in phase 5. That's where it was. Had it remained in phase 5, it would not be here today. There would be no park in Regent Park and would not have been for all of these years or all these years to come. So I took my whiteout and made some changes and said the park is phase 2. The rest of phase 2 will be right adjacent to the park on the south side of Dundas. We changed that. Again, Don Schmidt, the team from Diamond & Schmidt, Ken Greenberg, helped us manifest how that revised plan would work. And then we all got to work in figuring out the pipes. Because the main thing was getting the park built. Getting the pipes in the ground and figuring out how to make that work. That's an engineering challenge. And those can be accomplished if we all put our minds together. So the park got put into phase 2. And Pam McConnell, again, champion of this community from minute 1, said, okay, I support that. I support the change in the phasing plan. The park needs to be in phase 2. And, hey, there's an opportunity to actually create something now in the park and that is a regional aquatic center. So she took advantage of that. She leveraged the fact that the park was now going to be happening soon, and she took to council this opportunity. The park is going to get built, and money that was set aside for a regional aquatic center, I think, now this was way back years ago, the money had been set aside for 2024, 25. She brought it forward to 2013, 14, something like that. The park got built, the aquatic center got built, and every single day for years now, that is glue within this neighborhood. That is where people come together. That's where there's an intersection of people and kids and older people and people who are tenants and people who have bought, people who are renting homes. This is the place where magic happens, in the park, in the athletic grounds, in Daniel Spectrum. And that is what's so important, to look at how do you build the social infrastructure? How do you build the places where people come together and meet and connect and find commonality?
I'm glad you got to reference the Aquatic Center. There's so many pieces that we're not going to get to mention today. But the Aquatic Center, I often use this example of something built in a community that was formerly a no-go zone for so much of the city and the region, that is now something that draws folks from all around. World-class swimming facility, which, to tell all sides of the story, creates a challenge now. Because who gets to use it, right? Here you have this jewel in Regent Park, but the entire region now claims it as its own, signs up for the programs, and fills the locker room and the pool, right? So that's something to then work through. How do we make sure, and this goes back to your point earlier about empowerment and capacity building. Who does this all belong to, right? And it's a success to have something that the region now says, this is ours, but how do we make space for those who have been here and who, without whom we wouldn't have it, also say, no, this is ours as well. And you've used the word inclusion, you've used the word belonging to signal the aspiration there. One other thing to just get a mention of, I can't resist, community bake oven. We won't say anything about it. We'll tease the readers. But when you said a moment ago that we wouldn't, because we're still in phase 3, we wouldn't have the park, all the pastries and the goods that have been baked in that oven would not have been eaten. Maybe less calories would be out there, so that might be a good thing. So yet again, all these innovations. So huge aspirations, many, many miracles, but with big aspirations, there are disappointments. There are missed opportunities. So just as we've talked about the things that have you shaking your head in wonder and joy, what are the things that are bugging you? What are the things that just like, oh.
You really want to know?
Let's do it, man.
There are disappointments that we have had along the way, of course. There are things that we wanted to achieve that we weren't able to achieve. But I think we've done a few steps in the direction that we wanted to go further. One is inclusion of affordable housing within market housing buildings. And we've done that in a market rental building where we've incorporated affordable rental, deeply affordable rental, in partnership with Wood Green, in Evolve just around the corner. We'd love to have done more of that. And that depends on financial support from the federal, provincial, municipal governments. And there has not been the level of support to be able to do more of that. The same with affordable home ownership. We've done affordable home ownership, but this much as opposed to this much. So much more could have been done and can still be done today. But there isn't the federal, provincial, or municipal support to make that happen. We are continuing to knock on those doors, and we haven't given up, because we have communities under construction right now in Regent Park, and we would love to do more down payment assistance, shared equity second mortgages. We know how it works. It takes money. We've created our own program with our own money, but we could do a whole lot more if the federal government said, okay, we're going to provide money, and it'll go to Covenant House, it'll go to Dixon Hall, it'll go to Fred Victor Mission, it'll go to one of the agencies who can manage those units within a condominium building, within a rental building. So yes, we're very disappointed we haven't been able to do more of that integration. We're also disappointed that we haven't been able to continue through the end of the revitalization. We would have loved to continue with all five phases, but that is not to be. There were politics that happened that meant that our contract for all phases was terminated, and the city and Toronto Community Housing decided to go for tender, and we didn't win that tender. And so that's a disappointment for us for sure. The relationships we've built, the momentum that we had achieved in the neighborhood with local residents was kind of cut short. Now, cut short from the point of view of moving forward into phases 4 and 5, but not in terms of what we can continue to achieve today. And there are so many things that we're still doing and want to continue to do today in this neighborhood in partnership with local residents. Arts procurement, social procurement of all kinds. We're going to continue to do that. Finding ways to engage artists. And a number of artists from the neighborhood are here this morning. There's Mazar. Great to see you. We continue to engage with local artists. We have a living lane right behind this building. There are 4 artists that live and work on that lane. We want to do more of that. We want to find ways to continue to engage local artists. We had an artist in residence here for 2 years, Lorraine Sagato. I don't know if any of you know her, but she's right here. Lorraine! Regent Park was a place where people did not come from outside. So one of the big things we had to try to do is break down barriers in so many ways. And one was to create a destination around things that people from outside could say, hey, I want to come to Regent Park because Lorraine is there, playing in the Paintbox Bistro, or Henry Heilig, and the Heilig Maneuver is playing there in Paintbox Bistro. And Henry and all of his fans come to Paintbox Bistro and come to see Lorraine at the Wild Women, what is it? Wild Women. Lorraine had this amazing series, Wild Women Don't Get the Blues. And she did this series and invited artists from outside Regent Park, but also kids from the neighborhood to be on stage with her. And that process of breaking down barriers where people come to Regent Park and say, that was fun. That's not scary. There's this amazing place to come and be part of a neighborhood and experience the best jazz in the country. Seriously. Henry curated a series at Paintbox Bistro that was the best jazz in the country. People came to this neighborhood and thought, you know what? That's pretty cool. And Lorraine's residency here was very powerful. That Regent Park is a place that is evolving. It is not the Regent Park where people used to think, oh my God, if I'm going to drive through that neighborhood, I'm going to roll up my windows, lock the doors, and do not stop until you get to the other side. That was the persona that Regent Park had for decades. And slowly, slowly, slowly changing that was the goal. I didn't answer any of that question.
No, it did. I do want to commend you on the integration piece. In my prelude, when you all get to see it in the book, you'll see I reproduce an email that I sent to Mitchell 2016, 8 years ago, after we first met.
Yep.
And you did a tour for myself and my team. And one of the questions I asked you on that tour was, if I'm hearing this right, there's rental in the future Regent Park, there's for sale, so there's the replacement housing, the right to return housing, there is the market rate for sale, but they're in separate buildings. And I said, do I really have this right? Is every rental building going to be separate from every for sale building? And you said, sorry, Mark, that's the plan, that's it. And I said, how is that mixed? How is that a mixed income community? And aren't we setting up another challenge? And to your credit, you found a way. You found a way. Now, it's not at the scale you would like. We still have to crack that nut, and it's going to take policy, municipal, regional, federal, to allow us to do it. But you found a way to have some building. So we can't say there is no physical integration at all at Regent Park. I got to ask my last question. I'm running low on time. So I'd love for you to speak to that next generation of change agents. Those folks out there who have big, audacious visions, and aspirations, but face crippling resistance, the kind that you and your team and the community members here faced. Let's just name it. We took a blow south of the border last week. There are tough winds of change here in Canada. There are winds of change blowing against the kind of inclusion and belonging and investment behind that. So we're facing tough times, but the story of Regent Park is one of, as you've said, not allowing those to stop you. What's your advice to young leaders with an audacious vision?
I am seeing a generation of young leaders rising up and understanding that they have the ability to make change. So I'm seeing it in so many different ways. In the arts community, in the development community, there's a group of young people in the development community that aren't going to do what the older generation did. They recognize the importance of doing more than just build houses and make money. So we are spending a lot of time talking to second generation builders, developers, and showing how easy it is to make a positive impact on the communities in which they're building. So we are really excited about that role, about that opportunity, about spreading the word about what has been accomplished here. People with audacious plans and the determination to push and to keep pushing can be successful. We've seen that, we know that can be, and we're going to continue to find ways that we can encourage and support and help others sort of grab onto that opportunity and make change happen, to make their neighborhood and their city a place where everyone belongs.
Thank you, Mitchell. You and I are going to scheme. You and I and your team are going to scheme how we get this book into the hands of as many developers, planners, visionaries around the world who can learn from this example of what's possible. It takes a perseverance, but it just takes a generosity of spirit and will and passion. So again, thank you for being you. Join me, thank you. Now I'll toss it back to Hila. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. There we go. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mitchell, for an insightful and fun conversation. As you all immerse yourselves in reading Rhythms of Change, there are many more insights ahead through the stories of resilience and community spirit detailed in Mitchell's reflections. For our online audience, this concludes today's program. Rhythms of Change is now available internationally via Amazon UK. To order your copy, please scan the QR code on one of the screens that should pop up. And to our online audience, thank you so much for joining us today. For media in attendance today, Mitchell will be available for interviews once we conclude the formal program momentarily. Mitchell will also be signing books for everyone in attendance today. There is an opportunity to purchase additional copies right over there from Nick, who has kindly joined us from the local spacing store. And as you all wait, I encourage you to engage in conversation over a glass of non-alcoholic Prosecco supplied by Zero Bar, a local business founded by entrepreneur and Regent Park resident Gail Lynch. Zero Bar recently opened its first location in Cabbagetown, so be sure to check that out when you have some time. We also have some more delicious eats from Cafe Zuzu, based right here in Regent Park. And finally, please join me in celebrating Mitchell. Mitchell, congratulations on this remarkable achievement. Thank you for your courageous leadership and thoughtful storytelling in sharing Rhythms of Change with the world. The stories are sure to resonate deeply with everyone who reads the book. Your visionary approach to urban development serves as a shining example and an inspiration for us all and for future generations on how to shape healthy, vibrant, and thriving neighborhoods. Here's to your passion, your perseverance, and the profound impact you continue to have. Cheers to you on this exciting new chapter in your journey. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
In the first segment of this video, Mitchell Cohen joined a panel discussion with Dr. Mark Joseph, founding director of the National Initiative on Mixed Income Communities. The discussion underscored the transformative impact of the Regent Park's revitalization, positioning it as a groundbreaking model in urban development. This ambitious project has not only redefined the community, but also sparked critical dialogue within the development sector, illustrating how mixed income initiatives can foster social cohesion and equitable urban renewal. The insights shared by Cohen and Dr. Joseph emphasize Regent Park's role as a pioneering case study, inspiring innovative approaches to community development worldwide. Following the insightful panel discussion in part 1, part 2 of this video shifts focus to a more intimate and reflective setting later in the day. Mitchell Cohen engaged with community members, offering them a deeper understanding of the revitalization process and acknowledging the individuals who played pivotal roles in its success. In a heartfelt tribute, Cohen expressed his gratitude by reading excerpts from his book and performing original songs inspired by the Regent Park story. This segment celebrates the collective effort behind the revitalization and highlights the personal and communal narratives that have shaped its legacy.
There's so much good schmoozing going on that I think everybody just wants to hang out and talk. Wow, that's pretty cool. After I do what I'm going to do, which is talk for a bit and maybe play a couple songs, you might see a guitar hanging out here. I will be staying here to sign books as long as it takes till everybody's book is signed, if you should want that. But in the meantime, right now, please come sit and we'll get started. Welcome, everyone. So nice to see you. So nice to see you, Rabia. Team from Art Hubs. Many different people that I've gotten to know over the years here in this neighborhood. Welcome to all of you. I'm going to do a couple of readings from the book. I'm going to say a few words about our experience here in this neighborhood. But just before, I want to say a couple words of thanks to the people who are helping make this such a beautiful occasion. Gail Lynch from Zero Cocktail Bar. Gail is providing cocktails. I met Gail a number of years ago and we engaged in so many amazing conversations about building community. And Gail, you are very much at the heart of this and everything that happens in this neighborhood. Thank you for all of that and for your amazing cocktails. Inez Garcia, where are you? Inez, your empanadas are famous throughout the land. We have a lot of different people that have supported this event. Spacing Magazine is here, and it's been a wonderful partnership with Spacing. And so all of the books you're getting are books that are coming through Spacing Magazine. They're 401 Richmond. And get down there and visit them, because they've got such a library of opportunity of books about the city and about city building. And they're just truly an incredibly important part of the urban fabric and the urban milieu. Quick little story is that, I was thinking about writing a book, and I wasn't sure that I would or that I should or that what it might be. And I wrote a couple of what might be chapters. They were actually little mini essays. And I sent them to Dylan Reed at Spacing. And I said, yo, Dylan, take a look at this. And Dylan looked at it and he read it and he got back to me, he said, Mitchell, no. This is not a couple essays. This is a book. Keep writing. And that was great, and I hope you'll pass that on to Dylan. It was really his encouragement that meant that I should keep on going and keep on writing and make what turned into this beautiful book, Rhythms of Change. So thanks to Spacing. To the entire team at Daniels, there's so many amazing Daniels people here today that are helping to make this day very, very special. So thanks to all of our marketing and communication and social impact teams who are here to make all these kind of things happen so seamlessly. So thanks to all of you at Daniels for being here and everything that you do. We have so many other amazing, wonderful guests that are here. Benny Bing is here. Benny is, there you are, Benny. Benny is in the Living Lane just behind here. He's one of the 4 artists on the Living Lane. If you haven't been to his studio, go visit. And Benny is creating art, but he's also creating community in his space in the Living Lane. With 3 other artists that Benny was part of the process of choosing artists for the Living Lane. And we now have this incredible community of artists that are here making magic. So Benny, thank you for being here. Barry Thomas is here. Where's Barry? Barry's here. Barry Thomas has been working for Toronto Community Housing for a few years. And Barry welcomed us to this community a long time ago when we first came in. And it was really important because Barry was on the ground. Barry knew everyone in the neighborhood. Barry knew the challenges, the anxieties, the uncertainty that people were living with and that people were facing. And Barry provided support to all of them, and people trusted Barry. And that was so important at this very challenging moment when, you know, people's homes are going to get ripped apart, demolished. And Barry was there every step of the way and every second for all of the people in this community. And finally, before I read an excerpt, a thank you to everyone who's living in this neighborhood, many of whom lived in the neighborhood for decades and were really part of the evolution of what this would be. So to all of you, thank you for welcoming me and our team into your homes and your hearts and your community. That has been so important for us to be welcomed by you. And then there's the people who moved in once we started to build new buildings and who really took a chance that this concept, this idea of a revitalization was real, that there really was an opportunity to create a community that would be welcoming and inclusive for everyone. So to all of you who have moved in the last, 13, 14 years maybe? It's been a while. Welcome to all of you. Marlene, great to have you here. And so many others. Leonard moved into one of the first buildings. Marlene moved into one of the first buildings. So many others that are here. Kate moved into the very first building that we built, One Cole, and took a chance that this revitalization was real, that the story that we were telling about building a community that would be welcoming and inclusive could really come to life. So thank you for trusting in that narrative and helping be part of making it come true. Whew. So I'm going to read verse 8. All of the chapters in the book are actually called verses because I play music, I write music. I'm going to sing a few songs in a minute. So the chapters are verses, and this is verse 8. First encounters. As the seeds of change were taking root, I continued my daily nonstop drive through Regent Park on my way to and from work. In the early days, that route took me to Co-op Housing Federation of Toronto's headquarters on Queen West. Subsequently, to Daniel's head office at Queen and Yonge. And then, in early 2005, with zoning in place and buildings deteriorating by the day, Toronto Community Housing was ready to act. first with a request for qualifications, and then with a request for proposals for the Regent Park revitalization. With thousands of homes under our belt, including a wide spectrum of affordable housing under various government programs, we were qualified and deeply motivated to take on this monumental task, this monumental challenge. Along with 4 other developers, we made it to the shortlist and were invited to respond to the request for proposals. After years of simply driving through, it was time for me to get out of the car, walk the courtyards within the Garden City, meet local residents, and listen deeply to the rhythms of the community. As we prepared our response, my partner Martin Blake and I spent considerable time in the neighborhood listening and learning from local residents. One spring evening in May of 2005, I was hanging out with Deanie, Diane, and Deborah, along with Adonis Huggins, Executive Director of the Regent Park Focus Media Arts Center. Deanie, Diane, Deborah, and Adonis were sharing their dreams of what a revitalized Regent Park might look and feel like. And I was sharing my history in the co-op housing sector. And then I heard sirens in the distance coming closer. I looked up and I saw 3 police cars, lights flashing, sirens blaring, jump the curb on Dundas. In fact, right out here. That wasn't in the book. Jump the curb on Dundas Street in hot pursuit of a group of teenagers hightailing it across a dusty baseball diamond. It didn't seem to matter that the high-speed chase could have ended in collateral damage to kids playing nearby. That was my introduction to the community. On reflection, the most surprising aspect of that experience was that no one was surprised. That moment spoke volumes about life in Regent Park, a reality for Deanie, Diane, Deborah, Adonis, and so many others who had been working hard to create change, to bring change to this neighborhood for over a decade. Thank you. That's verse 8. Yes, that was, 19 years ago? We were kids just then, right? Inez? We're still kids. That was a long time ago. It was 19 years ago. And it's so good to see so many friends coming out this afternoon to share this moment of celebration with me and with members of our team. All of us at Daniels, we feel very, very privileged to have been able to play a role in a transformation that has been unfolding since the 1990s, when Pat Cole, Angela Critchlow, Alceda Douglas, along with Deanie, Diane, Deborah, Adonis, and so many others, came together to envision what a revitalized Regent Park might become. The vision that was ultimately incorporated into the social development plan has been crystal clear from the outset. A set of principles, a roadmap, a North Star by which to chart a course to a revitalized Regent Park. That road was never going to be easy or smooth, and there have certainly been setbacks and challenges along the way. But it is a road that we have traveled together, hand in hand with some remarkable partners at Toronto Community Housing over the years, including Barry Thomas, Liz Root, Lansfield Morgan, Julio Rigaras, Sean Major, and more recently, Peter Zimmerman, Will Mendez, Robert Boyd, Mireille Vasic, Teresa Todorova. and so many others. It is a road that brought us to this moment of reflection, to look back, celebrate what has been accomplished, but also to look ahead at the opportunities and the challenges of tomorrow. Can we continue to build a future in which all voices are heard and respected, in which everyone is seen and everyone is heard and everyone is welcome? I believe we can, despite differences of opinions on all kinds of issues. But hey, different opinions and different points of view are a fact of life. The key for every one of us, the key is how we respond. The key is how we react. The key is how we look for and how we find common ground. Rhythms of Change is first and foremost a tribute to all of you, to residents who have lived here for decades, as well as those of you who took a chance that the vision would become a reality. It's also a tribute to dedicated team members at agencies who have supported this community over so many decades, through all the challenges of upheaval and change. Center for Community Learning and Development, Dixon Hall, Yonge Street Mission, Salvation Army, Kiwanis Boys and Girls Club, Regent Park Community Health Center, Center for Social Innovation, Fred Victor Mission, and more recently, L'Arche Toronto. Welcome to all of you from L'Arche, and to all of the other representatives of the agencies who have put so much love and energy into supporting this neighborhood. So many other stakeholders have also put tremendous love and energy into building community wealth and community strength, including the Artscape and Art Hubs team, and all of the tenants at Daniel Spectrum who have been making a powerful contribution over so many years. Native Earth Performing Arts, Regent Park Focus, Community Music Schools of Toronto, Regent Park Film Festival, Art Heart, Square Circle, Green Thumbs Growing Kids, Healing is One, and so many others. This book is a tribute to all of you. It's also a tribute to all of the residents who have stepped up over the years with such tremendous passion into building social cohesion through the Regent Park Neighbourhood Association. This work is hard, this work is often thankless, but it is critically important, and for that I extend my sincere thanks to all of you for your tireless work on behalf of all residents and all stakeholders engaged in the revitalization. Although the work of this revitalization is far from complete, something truly remarkable is being accomplished. Heralded around the world, in fact, as the new gold standard by which a challenged inner city neighborhood can be reimagined and transformed. Through your work, your diligence, and your commitment, a process map for urban transformation has been created. A map that puts resident voices at the absolute top of the agenda, that builds community from the ground up rather than the top down. Through our collective efforts, we have shown what can be achieved when all sectors come together in common cause, under the umbrella of a shared and powerful vision. And now I'm going to read one further excerpt. What is this one? This is the final few paragraphs of the last verse of the book. Regent Park is no longer a food desert or a place to avoid. It is no longer a community consisting entirely of social housing, disconnected from the world beyond its footprint. In fact, the entire city is connecting with Regent Park, swimming at the aquatic center, enjoying taste of Regent Park, playing soccer at the athletic grounds, watching films under the stars with the Regent Park Film Festival, and experiencing Indigenous theater with Native Earth Performing Arts. Today, Benny Bing, Comey Olaf, Melissa Falconer, and Morgan Page Melbourne are bringing the Living Lane to life, creating both art and community from their work-live spaces with Iftikhar, Udine Ahmed, Gabriel Lasport, Mazhar, Yassine Osman, and so many other local artists building their portfolios and building their practices. Dixon Hall Music School and Community Music Schools of Toronto welcome hundreds of young people to their classes. Most will build personal and musical skills, and a few will grow into the next Thompson Egbo, one of Canada's greatest jazz pianists, or Charlotte Siegel, the brightest new star at the Canadian Opera Company. Walking the streets today, we feel the impact of collective effort, of a large ensemble of people and personalities adding tones and texture within every bar of the composition. Building community is very much like playing music, jamming with eyes and ears wide open, listening deeply and being generous with every player, building bridges and friendships through every refrain. And as the revitalization continues to unfold, new people and new instruments will join the ensemble with unlimited potential to create new harmonies, stories, and songs. Although our contractual relationship with Toronto Community Housing will come to an end, the Daniels team will continue to be here, adding value where we can. And of course, I'll be here for years to come, walking the streets, having coffee at Café Zuzu, a croissant at Le Beau, or just hanging out at Daniels Spectrum, listening carefully as the rhythms of change continue to energize and inspire with great hope for the future. Thank you. This is my very special guitar. I've had it for 55 years. I wasn't even born then. No, just kidding. I've had this guitar a long time. Sounds okay. What do you think? So I'm going to play two songs. And I think all of you know, or most of you know, that I'm a songwriter. I've written a lot of songs, including many, many songs that have been part of the Journey musical. I think 36 songs so far have been part of the Journey musical. And we've performed that 5 times or 6 times, mostly in Regent Park, but most recently at Kerner Hall downtown. And it was really amazing to bring the stories of Regent Park down into the city, into Kerner Hall. And oh my God, what a amazing experience for me to hear my songs played on that incredible stage by the most amazing musicians and singers, and watch the dancers, many of whom are from Regent Park, many of the singers from Regent Park. And that's been a big part of what the Journey has been. The Journey musical is, again, engaging young people from this neighborhood in telling their own stories through the Journey musical. So today is not a day for playing songs from the Journey musical. The songs I'm going to play for you now are songs about all of you who live in this neighborhood, who never say no, never say that, something can't happen, who always believe that by working hard and persevering and never stopping, that you can move any mountain. This song's called One Shovel at a Time. People say you can't move a mountain. I ask, have you ever tried? If you ever want to move a mountain, one shovel at a time. That's what it takes. One shovel at a time. People say you can't make a difference. I ask, have you ever tried? If you ever want to make a difference, one shovel at a time. Yeah. Start by starting. You get the feel. You start by starting. Yeah. Yeah. You make it real. You make it real. You make it real. Say, can't change the world. Well, I ask, have you ever tried? Well, if you ever want to change the world, one shovel at a time, that's what it takes. One shovel at a time, that's what it takes. One shovel at a time. And all of you have had that shovel in your hand, I know that. And you have moved mountains. So I'm going to be around to sign books, but I do want to play one more song. That last one was a tribute to all of you, as is this one. Got the move now, eh? I can see it. It's been 18 years since that wrecking ball. So many times thought we would fall. Came from the outside, stranger to all. But we heard your voice. We heard your call to the rhythm, to the music, to the rhythms of change, to the rhythm, the music, to the rhythms of change. Now looking back over all that time, so many good friends I've made along the line. I'm looking out at all of you standing so tall, one for the other, and one for all, to the rhythm, the music, the rhythms of change, oh, the rhythm, yeah, the music, yeah, to the rhythms of change. Now your voice is heard. And now your voice is heard around the world. around the world, around the world now, now, now. Here we are in the World Urban Pavilion. Kid you not. This is a global knowledge exchange hub that United Nations Habitat set up right here in Regent Park to tell the story, to tell this story, to tell all of your stories, to spread the word around the world, to tell people what can be done when people come together. There have been twists, many turns, a few bad scrapes, a few bad burns. But looking at the entire composition, the collaboration, today's the day for celebration of the rhythms, the music, yeah, of the rhythms of change. Oh yeah, the rhythm, the music of the rhythms of change. 1, 2, 3. All right. Let the music, let the rhythm take your breath away. Let the rhythm, let the music, let the rhythm take your breath away. Well, let the rhythm, let the music, well, let the rhythm take your breath away. Well, let the rhythm, let the music, let the rhythm take your breath away like it's taken my breath away. Thank you. Thank you again for being here. I'm going to sit right here at the front, actually, and sign books if anybody would like that. It's sort of fun to be right here. So do come up, and I'm happy to do that. And thank you again for everybody for being here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please follow us on all our social medias, and for more information, please visit our website.